President Mahmoud Abbas meets with US President Donald Trump in an effort to jumpstart peace talks with Israel. Hello, I'm Nathan King, sitting in for Anand Naidu, and this is The Heat. Hello again. Negotiations between the Palestinians and Israel took a back seat for most of the past decade, partly due to the war against Islamic State, the conflict in Syria, and concerns over Iran's nuclear program. But US President Donald Trump came into office promising a renewed effort towards a peace deal, assigning his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, to facilitate that process. In February, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu paid Mr. Trump a visit, followed by today's visit by President Mahmoud Abbas. For more on that, we turn to CGTN's White House correspondent, Jessica Stone. And Jessica, was there any progress made today? Obviously, the meeting itself is very important, but progress?
I wouldn't put it in that category just yet, but if there is any new hope, Nathan, it's because there's a new man in the middle. At least that's what the White House believes could be the difference between peace and no peace with respect to a deal between the Israelis and the Palestinians. And yet President Trump really has no framework about what he wants to see in a deal itself, and perhaps that gives him the maximum flexibility to reach one. He hasn't even committed, as you may remember, to a two-state solution, not in February when Prime Minister Netanyahu was here, not today with President Abbas here. And he did take some positions that favor the Israeli negotiating position, including advocating with President Abbas to stop the payments to the Palestinian prisoners in Israeli jails, to have the PLO media stop what he calls inciting to violence. But he really does believe, and he said as much today, that he can make the difference in what he calls the toughest deal. Take a listen.
The Palestinians and Israelis must work together to reach an agreement that allows both peoples to live, worship, and thrive and prosper in peace. And I will do whatever is necessary to facilitate the agreement, to mediate, to arbitrate, anything they'd like to do. But I would love to be a mediator or an arbitrator or a facilitator, and we will get this done.
Now, in stark contrast, Abbas really did lay out some conditions, including a return to the 1967 borders, supporting a two-state solution, and even giving both sides a mutual recognition of the Palestinian and Israeli states. Take a listen to Mahmoud Abbas earlier.
Mr. President, it's about time for Israel to end its occupation of our people and our land after 50 years. We are the only remaining people in the world who still live under occupation. We are aspiring and we want to achieve our freedom, our dignity, and our right to self-determination. And we want for Israel to recognize the Palestinian state, just as the Palestinian people recognize the state of Israel.
So you hear Abbas laying out some of the conditions there, Nathan. But this administration does have a personal connection, of course, to Netanyahu. Jared Kushner, the son-in-law to President Trump, does know him personally. There have been at least 4 meetings, we're told by a White House official, between Jason Greenblatt, the Middle East negotiator for this White House, and the parties to try to get things started. And again, we're just a little over 100 days into the administration. Yeah, but do we have anything new from the Trump administration to get these talks moving? Because previous administrations have tried and failed. Is there a magic bullet, something unthought of? Again, you ask the White House that, and they said it's the man that can make the deal, that his relationships and the sheer force of will is all that is necessary, which, of course, after more than 50 years of an intractable problem, is certainly something that you could have some skepticism about. There is some conversation, though, about some new economic incentives, and that is really the only new aspect that we've heard, and we haven't heard enough specifics to really give you more on that as to how that would affect the peace process. So at this point, it'll be more shuttle diplomacy, but really we don't have any clear sense about what this White House wants to see in terms of the outlines of a deal, Nathan.